Welcome to this episode of Profitology with Perry Jeffries, the podcast where we cover the numbers, the systems, and the strategies that help entrepreneurs generate and maintain profit not only in their families, but in their finances and their businesses. So appreciate y'all. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Perry Jeffries, known as the Entrepreneur CFO. I am the president of Diamond Equity Advisors, a full-service investment advisory firm specializing in cash management for businesses and retirement planning for individuals. So our company is known as the Cash Flow Concierge Company, and we work with clients all across the country. Our vision here is to help close the wealth gap one business at a time. So before we get started, I want to share a quick thought of the day, which I think is really relevant with respects to the special guest that we have with us today. So many of you have probably heard this quote, your network is your net worth. Let me say that again. Your network is your net worth. So, I've heard this several times before, but even more than previously, it just resounds and just rings a bell with me because it's so true. And what I have right here is something I found here as I was researching the quote. It's not about who you know. It's not just about who you know. It's about who you are becoming as a person. The new way to network and build your true net worth is about charting your own course, living life based on your passions, and being the best you can be. So as we kind of think about that quote, y'all, or that thought of the day, your network is your net worth. You hear those, hear that saying out there that you are the average sum total of the 5 people that you're closest to, right? And who you surround yourself with. And kind of what we've been doing here for the month of September here at Diamond Equity Advisors is we've really been focusing in on one of our core values. And one of our core values is to be a ecosystem engineer. And what that simply means is that we believe that our net worth is our network, but also too, we believe in a principle that if we focus on helping others achieve their goals, then by default, we'll achieve our goals. So taking the focus off of our own personal goals and move that to our clients and our friends and our family and focusing on their success and being very intentional about that, we know that's how we can win. So that's what we've been doing here for the month of September. And in keeping with that thing, we have one of our recent clients and kind of a newer member to our family here, Felicia Frazier, owner and operator of Dwell Interiors, joining us today. And just happy to have you here, sis, and the opportunity to not only highlight your business, but hear about your journey. So before we get started, introduce yourself to the listeners and the folks who are watching us live and who are going to be listening to us on the podcast. Tell us who you are. Tell us what you do.
All right. Hi, guys. I am Felicia Frazier. I've been married for 16 years. To a very supportive spouse, Simeon Frazier. We have 2 children and we have 2 grandsons. And I have my grandchildren call me honey. So I say that I have 2 honeybees. They're a lot of fun. They're my why as to what I do and what I'm pursuing here. I have been in business for 11 years, and it's a very interesting story, at least to me, of how I kind of fell into this. In 2008, I was laid off from Limited 2, part of that big mass, just during the recession, the mass layoff. Mm-hmm. And I have worked as a technical designer for 11 years across 3 different limited brands. So I started off in Structure, which is now called Express Men. And then I went over to Victoria's Secret. And then my last, position was between Limited 2 and Justice for Girls, which Justice is still in existence today. And a technical designer, I say, is we engineered the fit of the garment. So, something like a basic t-shirt, there was a lot that went into the process of making your t-shirt. We had to decide what the measurements were going to be. We had to fit product on models. And I mean, we've got down to details. My husband laughs because we've been to conferences. We specify zippers. So, it's weird. It gets very detailed. So, fast forward from there to 2008. What's funny is I was actually getting an itch to try something else new. And so the week of the layoff, that Monday, I actually took the day off. And I was talking to my husband, like, look, we have to figure something out. This is no longer my passion. I don't think I want to do this anymore. I feel like I'm holding someone else up from pursuing this, being in this position. So I report back in on Tuesday, and what do? They announce that they're going to be doing a mass layoff. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so they were calling people in from maternity leave, vacations, and told everybody to report back in on Wednesday. So, I got to work at the regular time, 8 something in the morning, and you could just see people kind of being tapped on the shoulder from someone coming up to your desk. They said, try to stay near your desk, and we'll call you if you're affected. And I was there like at 8:30 in the morning, and I got the call at 2:30. And
Wow.
so, was brought into the office, and, they shared, you're part of the layoff. So I packed my things up, but it was sad because I was leaving my coworkers, but at the same time, it was freeing. I was ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I called my husband on the way home, like, hey, I'm headed home. And so for the next 30 days, I just was kind of reflecting, what do I want to do? I had a severance package. So, just kind of let that float. And, I started thinking, what have I always enjoyed doing? That's what you hear all the time. What do you enjoy doing? What's your skill set in? And so I came up with, you know what, maybe I'll start an interior decorating company. I've always enjoyed that. And when I went to Ohio State, I actually tried to start in the architecture program,
Huh.
which I should have been in the interior design program. But I
Uh-huh.
was thinking, oh no, I'm going to be in architecture. I'm going to be like one of the few women that, make it to the top. And really, I just wanted to make the cute little models with the little fake trees and people, and that scaled down. And once I got into the classes, and I had to take physics and micro and macroeconomics, I'm like, oh no, this is not for me. And I started hearing about the long studio hours. No, forget it. What else do I like? So then I ended up going to the fashion and apparel program at Ohio State. And so I ended up graduating with my bachelor's in science. And that's how I got into the limited brands from there.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. So
that's awesome.
fun, but then it even extends. So I opened up my company in 2009, got my first client, really excited. It ended up fizzling out and it didn't happen. But in that meantime, my realtor that sold me my condo said, hey, you need to add home staging to your services. That's getting really big. He had just had a stager come out and give a presentation to his office, and she later became my mentor.
Okay.
Yeah. So did that, added that, and started kind of venturing out. And then like a couple months later, I just happened to answer this questionnaire by SCORE about marketing. And they were like, okay, we're going to run this contest. We're going to select 10 businesses across the entire US to participate in this marketing contest. And we're going to give each person up to $5,000 worth of marketing materials and assistance. And so I fill out this questionnaire, totally forget that I filled it out. And then I get this phone call like, hey, you're one of the 10 businesses. And I'm thinking it's a scam. I'm like, yeah, right. I don't even remember filling out a questionnaire. And they're talking about they want to fly us to Minnesota. I'm like, oh, yeah. Go ahead and send me the information. I believe you. I'll believe you when I see it. And then my packet came with airline information. And it was like, oh my gosh, I just won this contest. So that was just like a couple months after I decided to start this business.
Oh,
So
that's
for me, that was affirmation and
yeah.
confirmation that I was supposed to be doing this. So they spent 2010 just giving us publicity, helping us build our websites. We did an interview. I got interviewed by Women's Day magazine. And then they ended up creating professional advertisements for us that were featured in Money Magazine, Entrepreneur. It was just incredible. We got to meet Martha Stewart. Yeah, yeah. So, just since then, I have always felt like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And a path has always been opened up for me. And it's been an exciting ride and journey. And I'm just looking to grow as far as I can and take this as far as I can go with it.
That's amazing. So as I'm listening to this and thinking about just the journey that a lot of people are the entrepreneurship journey, right? And it's different for everybody. So kind of where our journeys are similar to each other. I was laid off, i.e. fired too, and that's what kind of kickstart my entrepreneurship journey, right? And it's funny when you hear this because I hear this more times than not versus, oh man, it's just, I decided it was time to go and I jumped out there. It's usually something that triggered that move. And it wasn't just, oh, well, I knew it was time for me to do something else. It was a layoff. It was a transition. It was something going on, which kind of puts you in this kind of this state of mind or this place to say, hey, what is it that I really want to do? So a couple things here as I was taking my notes, listening to your story here, Felicia, is the whole passion piece. So I hear this often, hey, follow your passion. What are you passionate about? And then you hear some people on the other side of the fence, nah, don't follow your passion, follow the money and things of that nature. But it sounds like you hit the sweet spot where you're doing something that you're passionate about and you're also making money. But kind of just talk a little bit about that whole passion piece, because the one thing that kind of triggered here was you took 30 days after you were laid off here in 2008, 30 days just to reflect about what I wanted to do. How did you how did you get to that resolution that it was going to be interior decorating? Like, how did you walk us through that process a little bit?
Yeah. Well, we own a rental property, and I had to kind of gut the bathroom and kind of bring some things up to date and refresh. And I really enjoyed it. And then I started thinking, oh my gosh, I have been drawing out floor plans for every single place that I have lived. And I used to do it for fun. My mom had kept like this packet of like a portfolio of drawings and sketches that I had done. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a no-brainer. Then I started kicking myself because I'm like, why didn't I go take interior design? But I am a person of strategy and
Yeah.
I like to do research. So I decided I'm going to do informational interviews with a couple of local interior designers.
Okay.
And so one of my next door neighbors happens to be an interior designer of 20 plus years. So I interviewed her. And I was trying to figure out, do I need to go back to school to get some interior design background? You know, what what should I do? I also interviewed Carolyn Williams Francis. I want to make sure I get her name right. She helped design the new East High School, the interior of East High School, and the Lincoln Theater.
Okay.
So I went with her, and they both said, if you have an eye and a skill set, you don't need to go back to school and get formally trained.
Wow.
So I decided I'm going to print some cards, and yeah. So I said I'm going to print some business cards, and I'm just going to go for it and just put myself out there and see what happens. So that was I guess a risk that I decided to take because I was thinking if it doesn't work out, I'll just go back into the retail industry and, go for another job. And I forgot to add that in that 30 days, I got a call asking if I wanted to come back because someone else had left. And I wasn't let go due to my performance. I was let go because, just
Yeah.
they needed to reduce their numbers.
Yeah.
So I had a conversation with my husband, and I was like, we both agreed that, yeah, I don't think you should go back. I think this is time for you to try and venture off on
This
your own.
this is
Um,
awesome. This is
yeah.
awesome because it's two things I want to make sure that we highlight here, which I think is really key for somebody who's thinking about going that that entrepreneur route, if you will. You interview multiple people in your industry. That right there is worth its weight in gold. So many times we see entrepreneurs just jump out there like, oh, I'm on fire. I want to be an entrepreneur. And they haven't talked to anybody in their industry to understand, like, is this really what I want to do? What are the obstacles? What are the pitfalls? What were some of the challenges that you had? So effectively, what you did by interviewing other people in your industry, you were able to be strategic because you could learn from their experiences and not have to, waste time trying to figure a lot of things out. So that right there is key. And I wanted to kind of do a quick pause just to highlight that, Felicia, because though you did it, and I don't know why you did it, if somebody said, hey, this is what you should do, or intuitively it's something on a voice on the inside said, hey, go talk to people in this industry before you jump out there. But that was probably one of the smartest business moves you could have made, and definitely a great business move for other people. And then the other piece that you said right here, I think is just crazy powerful. You were thinking about, okay, do I need to go back to school? And what somebody said to you is like, hey, if you already have an eye for this thing, you already have some talent in there, you don't technically need to go back to school. So for all my school teachers listening and professors, I'm not saying, hey, don't go back to school. But what I will say is this. I have 2 degrees, one in math and a minor in biology, and I used neither one of them. A little bit of the math, I could have probably stopped at math in middle school. I'm not using any high power math, right? I know how to how to read percentages. So a lot of times we think, oh, you got to go back to school. But you may actually already have that skill set that you just need to hone in on and develop more and whatnot. So a lot of times we get stuck in that go back to school, go back to school. But in your case, and also in my case right here, it was literally like, no, you know what I'm saying? I have this skill set. Let me find some mentors. Let me find some people who are doing it and kind of, and interview them and learn, and then take that and go back to the lab and go to work. So those are just two super powerful takeaways. Those are huge. So I really appreciate you sharing those. That's definitely huge.
And now that you bring that up, I remember that I didn't go back to school for interior design, but when I decided I'm going to start a business, I did take a marketing class through Columbus State, and I attempted to take an accounting class through Columbus State, but it was overwhelming. So I said, okay, we're going to scratch that part. But I did, take a couple of continuing education classes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. I love that. So continuing to learn. I love this. And for our people who are listening here, tuning in to Profitology, let me give you guys just to kind of just piggyback on things that Felicia said so far. A lot of times you think that you have to figure this stuff out on your own, and you don't. Because if there's people who in your industry have already experienced some success, like spending some time with them, investing time in them, investing with them, whether you have to pay for that time or take them out for a cup of coffee or be able to just, give them something in return, barter services, whatever the case may be, can be one of the best investments you can ever make, because that allows you to condense time frames and not have to figure everything out on your own. So again, kudos to you with that. So let me ask this question. What would you tell that younger you, 20 years younger? What would you tell your younger you, knowing what you know now? We see this meme pop up on, social media all the time. What would you tell your 15-year-old self, right? So what would you tell your 20 year younger, 25-year younger self, knowing what you know now?
Um, Gosh, so much. I would say, even as a 46-year-old, I'm like, get a mentor, keep a mentor, someone that you can bounce ideas off of, preferably someone that's in a higher position or further along than you are. I feel that's so critical, because like you said, a lot of times we think we know what we're doing, um, and we can make the process drag along. Like
Oh,
even to today, I felt successful, but I feel like I could be further along had I gotten a mentor or a coach a lot sooner.
yeah.
So uh, when I added home staging to my interior design business, I started studying because I do research. I started studying a couple of different staging companies, and I ended up going with one that had actually been the creators of home staging, but primarily so because they had a local staging chapter. And I
Mm,
thought, okay, if I can rub elbows and get some mentorship through some of these stagers that have been in the business for a while, that's going to help me. So I did at least do that.
mhm.
Um, and that was very beneficial. Like I said, that's where I got my mentor. Um, that did kind of help me skip a couple of steps because they had processes in place.
Yeah.
I needed a little more, but I didn't know that. Um, so
You don't
yeah,
know
it's
what you
been
don't know.
helpful.
Yeah, that's the deal. You don't know
Right,
what you don't know, and you can be out there on fire like, oh, this is what I'm about to do. And
right.
if you don't know what you don't know, you can set yourself up for failure. And getting that mentorship and rubbing those elbows are huge. Love it.
Accountability.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness, don't get me
yeah.
started on accountability.
Right,
How
right,
important is that? Like, no, this is what you're doing today. No,
right,
no, this is the
right.
next step. Oh, I want to skip that. No, 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 we don't skip that step. This is step.
Right.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. I love accountability. That's awesome.
Right.
So this is so good. This is so good right here. So do this for me because a lot of people may not know what a home stager is. So we know that's what you specialize in, right? But what is home staging? Let's talk a little bit about what is it that you do? What is it that you do as a home
Right.
stager, if you will?
We Our clients are primarily realtors, homeowners, and investors, and we work with both local and international investors right now. And what we pretty much do is we help them prepare their house for market. I kind of consider it like being a visual merchandiser. You have someone that creates this vision for buyers to want to purchase your particular product. And that's what I look at as a house. By the time they're ready to sell, your house is now a product and you need it to show at its best for this next, potential buyer to want to own it. So, in marketing, I learned about buyer psychology. And, a house is a very high price investment and it's a high ticket product.
Yeah,
So it's really important that that the buyer has an emotional connection when they're walking through your house. So that's what my focus is when I'm staging, is to paint this story of, to start the imagination of the buyer of themselves living there, and you want them to feel this emotional connection, like, oh, I can visualize us having dinner parties in the dining room. Pardon me. Or I can visualize us hanging out in the family room or out there on the deck. So leaving a house vacant, I do a lot of vacant stagings. Leaving a house vacant just leaves too much up in the air, and it also starts to, I'll say, it could potentially highlight some of the imperfections of the house, as people are walking through, if they don't have something there to create this warm inviting space and to make a connection.
that's huge. Okay, so so I love what you said right here. You go into the psychology of the buyer, which is, I think it's that psychology of that buyer. Like, this is something we could talk about all day, just with respects to any business, anybody who's looking to improve their bottom line or increase their top line number, if you will, is the psychology of the purchase and having that emotional connection. So you go in and you create this environment where I walk in, I'm like, oh man, yep, I can see us shooting pool. We're shooting pool right here because there's a pool table right there. Or, hey, the big screen's right here, or got it. That's absolutely amazing. So how do you, like, without giving any industry secrets away here, but now I'm really interested in this from a customization standpoint. Like, how do you know what direction you go in when you stage a house for somebody? Is it based upon the person's personality or the seller's personality? Like, how do you even start to think about that? That's a lot of going
Right.
on.
That's a good question, because staging is all about depersonalizing. You're trying to remove that seller's personality from that house. So, somebody may love purple, so they have painted their entire living room purple, and they're not understanding why I'm telling them to paint it a more neutral color. It's because this is not your home anymore. You're trying to get someone else to fall in love with this house, and not everybody loves purple. You have a higher, chance of getting someone to fall in love with this space if you start to remove yourself from it. Like, for example, and that's the difference between design and home staging. Design is all about personalizing and trying to make it, suitable and reflect the personal interests and, preferences of the homeowner. But home staging is, let's depersonalize, declutter, and let's try to attract a wider range of buyers.
Wow, that's deep. Okay. So with design is like, hey, you customizing that to fit Perry. Hey, I want to have the XYZ and right. But the home staging is like, all right, Perry, this house was the way you designed it was for you, but we want to make this available to these other buyers here. So depersonalize. Interesting.
Yeah. So like, for instance, I just had a client, they are from Russia, and they've got they had really specific tastes. So when I went to go do the preview, they had very extravagant light fixtures and marble all over the bathroom, and a very customized and personalized oven range. And I had to talk to them about, okay, we need to kind of neutralize this. We need to replace these light fixtures with something that's more basic, or just appeals to a wider range of buyers. Let's switch out this hood range, so that that doesn't, that's not off-putting to the potential buyer. So we have to sometimes make those recommendations as well.
Got it. Huh. Okay. I love this. There's so many lessons in there as far as imagery, as far as I think that the depersonalization, I find even that from a marketing standpoint, as myself as a business owner, right? Like, what is the message or the imagery or, the picture that I'm putting out there for the business? Is it really attracting who I want to attract, right? And it sounds like you do the same thing with the house. From a marketing standpoint, it's like, okay, we want to attract this type of buyer, so we need to have this in here. And so that's even going into that whole piece. I feel like you want to say something. Go ahead.
Right, yes. So I forgot to add that with each house, I do try to create, or I'll speak to the seller and the realtor agent and ask, who is your target buyer for this area? Who's living in this community now? Who are you trying to attract, so that when we stage, it's staging to that target buyer?
No, knowing your customer, kind of get into our model one. Know your customer. Start with the customer first, and then you can paint the story. Big shout out to Austin and the crew over there at 2X. Awesome. No doubt. Yeah, we just can't get away from this model one. It keeps coming back. Okay, cool. Yeah. Model one from our friend Austin, who is actually my business coach as well. talks about as you're building your ideal offer, it always starts with the person first. Who is your ideal target audience, right? Because your ideal target audience, when you get crystal clear on who that is, then painting the image for them is easy to do, because their pain points, their likes, their dislikes, what they enjoy, typically their age, their demographics. Just if you know all of those answers kind of going into it, if you already know the answers to the test going into it, then you can build it the right way. So that's absolutely phenomenal. Okay, I love that. All right, so tell us, so what plans you have going on for the rest of the year? So it's been kind of crazy. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and from what I've seen, real estate is still flying off the shelves, which is mind blowing to me. I don't know how it is in other markets, but in the Columbus market. So what you got planned for the rest of the year?
I actually have joined a coaching program under Austin. So
Okay.
now I also have a coach, so that's going to be a big focus because we want to grow and scale at
Yeah.
this point. So
Yeah.
I will be looking to add to our team in the
Yeah.
next 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
So that will be a big focus with us.
Yeah.
We're in September going into October. Typically, that's the time when things start to slow down in the real estate market. So it's actually a great time for me to get into this coaching program. But yeah, I'm hoping to add to the team because I need extra hands
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah. If you got to scale, you
Yeah.
got to have a team. If you're going to scale,
Yes.
you got to have a team. That's one of the lessons I learned. And that's another gem that we're giving y'all here today on Profitology, y'all, is if you're going to scale, you got to have a team. And the way my team is built with all entrepreneurs. I have no employees. I have a team full of entrepreneurs who have their own businesses, and they pitch in and bring their expertise to certain areas. And because of that, we've been able to see some success and be able to scale as well, even through a pandemic. So that's definitely something that I'm hearing as a reoccurring thing from you, Felicia, is that, the coaching, the mentorship, right? Getting connected with folks, the network. It seemed like that's a common theme that I'm hearing along your success. So what would you tell, that new person getting started in business or already in business as it pertains to the importance of coaching and mentorship, how it's impacted you in growing your business? What would you tell them?
Um, it's been fantastic for me. I say try to get a mentor or coaching very early on in the process, um, because you really need help in going from that employee mindset to a business owner mindset. And
Oh my
I
gosh.
don't know that any of us ever really arrived there. Like that's been an enormous journey for me, is going from being an employee and just having my piece of the pie to needing to know every area, marketing, finances,
Yeah. Yeah.
design, um, needing to know all of that. So I say get a coach or mentor very early on in the process, um, and be strategic about it. Don't just go, flippantly off of, oh, I think this will work. Oh, this will work. Even if you start with the SBA or you start with SCORE, which I've told a lot of people about SCORE. They offer free business advice. They have some classes that they do offer for a very nominal fee. But just start, if you're looking to start dipping your pardon me, dipping your toes into the water that way. Start with some free mentorship.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. So I love this. So, and you said it a couple times now, as far as it being strategic. So being strategic, y'all. So not just, oh, this is what we're going to do, but being able to plan a couple steps ahead. And it's hard to plan a couple steps ahead if you don't know what those steps are. So that's where the mentorship comes into place. So you can be like, okay, I'm here. This mentor is here, and these are the steps in between. And then you can start to map those out and save yourself time, energy, and money, which is so important, especially when you're starting your business. And then the piece I'll highlight as well is that you just continue to grow. Like you said, this whole entrepreneurship piece, there's no point where you say, hey, I capped off, I'm at the top of entrepreneurship. Even myself, I'm always learning something new. always open to learning something new. I realize that I don't know everything, and just to go out here, and that's what's kind of exciting about entrepreneurship, is that you can go out and at any point in time you can make a pivot and reinvent yourself, which many of us had to do during the pandemic, right? So I absolutely love that. I failed to ask you this question, and again, kind of going back to why we're doing what we're doing. Being the ecosystem engineers and highlighting the people in our network and our clients and things of that nature. With your business, who are the clients that you're looking for? I know you mentioned, realtors and investors, but like who are your clients? Who, when they watch this, needs to say, man, I need to contact Felicia and talk.
Mm-hmm. My primary client base starts with listings that I would say range from the $200,000 mark and up to the $1 million mark. My primary business is vacant staging. So I provide furniture and accessory rental for houses that are vacant. But I also do occupied stagings where the owner is living in the property while it's on the market. So we'll primarily use their furniture, and we'll rearrange and maybe refresh and bring in a couple of accessories and furniture pieces as needed. So that's those are my two main businesses and clients. On the investor side, I also offer renovation flip design consultation. So right now I have an international investor who is doing 3 new builds. And so I walk alongside the contractor, the general contractor, and we decide the layout of the property. We decide upon all of the inside hardware, finishes, materials. And I also work with those that are buying existing properties and want to completely gut them and reinvent, the inside. So I help with that as well.
Got it. Okay. So typically businesses, not business, but typically properties, say 200K upwards of $1 million. Vacant, we can do occupied. I bet that's a trip trying to help somebody stage a property where they still live in it. Wow.
Yeah.
You cannot have that here. No, right. You cannot put that here.
I know you love that, but yes, or you've had this furniture for 20 years, and the buyer knows they're not going to buy your furniture, but it's just not going to go over well, Yeah.
Right. No doubt. I'm like, I could just visualize that. Like, no, we have to take that down.
Right. We're going to have to have the pets go somewhere while the house is on the market,
Facts. Facts.
Yeah.
Now I have a question for you, and kind of putting you on the spot a little bit. And if you don't have an answer to this, don't worry about it, but it just had me thinking. So, I was in real estate in the past, and I wasn't doing a whole bunch of flipping and whatnot. I was kind of a buy and hold type investor, right? But what is the benefit to the person who's selling a property and hiring a stager? Like, is there some data out there that says that if you stage the house, you get a higher asking price? Like, is there anything that kind of points to that? Because I can only assume that if a property is staged the right way or staged correctly, that it can actually increase, the bottom line to the. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. There have been studies done even by the National Association of Realtors, and typically it varies between 85 to 90% of homes that are professionally staged go into contract within, I believe it might be within the first 20 days. And even in this pandemic, several of my clients have gone into contract in less than 48 hours. It's absolutely amazing that the market is still so hot, during this pandemic. But yeah, those are the typical statistics of a staged home versus an unstaged home.
Got it.
They definitely go a lot faster.
So just going
and for more money. I forgot to add that. Yes, I forgot to add that. They go faster and for more money. I've had 3 recent stagings where, oh my gosh, there was this one staging out here, and it was like a basic ranch style home, and I actually thought it was going to be on the market for a while, but the agent called me and was like, "Oh my gosh, we had 50 showings within 2 days, and they had 12 offers on this house that really was not remarkable, but
Yeah.
yeah, but it was staged, and it was an occupied staging. It was using some of the owner's furniture, and we came in and dressed it up a bit more. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the market is hot. It's amazing, and
Yeah.
staging definitely takes it over the top. So even I started my business kind of at the tail end of the recession.
Mm-hmm.
So we were calling it the rebound period, but it
Yeah.
still was very slow. So even in a slow market, there is a benefit to staging, because now in a slow market, you have a lot of inventory out there. And it's so important that you differentiate yourself from the
Mm-hmm.
competition so
Mm-hmm.
that you do get that showing and try to get someone in this house to walk through it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
What lesson I'm taking from you today is, the imagery and the positioning, because to your point, even as regardless of what business we're in, we have to differentiate ourselves from the competitors, right? How do we stand out? But also, too, are we are what we presenting, does it align with who our ideal target market is? And all of those equal a higher ROI, or return on investment. So that's just really, really good stuff. Really good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we're closing out here, Felicia, what would be, what would you want to leave the listeners with? Because we've covered a lot, from staging, we covered your entrepreneurial journey and whatnot. What would be a couple things, or one thing that you want to leave the listeners with, just to remember as they kind of going through entrepreneurship, or they're thinking about entrepreneurship? What would you tell them?
I just want to encourage them to take the lead. I'm not saying leave your job and just start trying to pursue this. It might be something that you have to start slowly on the side, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely take the lead. There's too many of us that have just had this dream, this wish, and have never taken the steps towards achieving it. Um, and do it scared. Like I still get scared. I was scared preparing for this interview. Like, oh, I'm nervous to be on a Facebook Live video, but do it scared. I'm like, we're in a pandemic. Life is short.
Yeah.
You don't want to look back with regret. Just get started. Get started. I have learned so much about myself on this journey. Um, I've learned that I have so many leadership skills. I've been nominated president, like, over 2 different organizations. And when I was an employee, I never knew I had that in me.
Wow.
I never knew I had so much determination and perseverance until having to go through this journey. And, I used to joke when I worked for Limited Too that it was so comfortable there. And they took really good care of us. That was the favorite company to work for. But I always joke that I used to joke and say that God is going to have to push me out there. You're not going to move unless I make you move. So here you go fly.
There it is.
But yeah, just I want to encourage you to take the lead, seek the help. There's plenty of us out here that are willing to help guide you.
That is awesome. So right now, I'm thinking I need to get a T-shirt that says "Do it scared." That right there
Yeah,
resonated, because if you ain't scared, you ain't doing it right in this entrepreneur.
right.
Nobody. I don't care what you hear from anybody here talking about, well, oh, I'm out here, and if they really in this full time, they are doing it scared. And I don't know, it's something about
Yeah,
that just resonated with me, sis. It's like, do it scared out here every
I
day,
had to get
right?
that shirt too.
Yeah. That is phenomenal. Do it scared, because
Mhm.
that's the only way you can do it, right? You have to have, what I'm saying? So we're not saying, hey, that fear or anxiety, but do it like, man, okay, but this is what I got to do, because I believe that right there, from a motivation standpoint, if you receive that, like, man, I'm scared. When you're scared, typically one of the things you do is help. If you're scared, you're asking for help. And in this entrepreneur piece, you got to ask for help. So All of that's just absolutely fire, sis. We definitely appreciate that. Well, we want to make sure that people know how to contact you, right? So if they need to stage a home, connect with you, whatever the case may be, what's the best way for listeners or people to connect with you?
Well, I am on social media. I am on Facebook under Dwell Interiors, and I'm also on Instagram. So you can message me through Facebook, but I will also leave my contact information in the comments if that's possible.
Absolutely.
After this, I'll leave my contact information because my email is really long and I don't
No
want you guys
worries.
to be confused.
We'll have your contact information in there, and people can follow you in the whole nine. So from us here over at Diamond Equity Advisors and Profitology, sis, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
jumping on
Thank
the
you for
interview,
having
doing the interview scared, do it scared.
me.
Like that's absolutely fire to me. I don't know why that's just resonating. Like, if I was young, I might even get that cut in my hair, do it scared. Right. But but thank you for joining us. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing your story. I know it's going to bless somebody. And
I
thank
hope
you for
so.
being a part of our ecosystem. We love highlighting our clients and just putting you guys out there because you guys are wonderful people. And we thank you for trusting us to help, just be a part of your team. So with that being said, y'all, thank y'all for joining us for this episode of Profitology. Share it with a friend, share it with a colleague, share it with family, continue to love on each other. And, we'll talk to you guys on the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.